Once upon a time, Ethan stood at the entrance of Crestwood High School, a place that had never felt like home. The hallways were filled with students laughing, talking, and gossiping, but never with him. He was the quiet one, the boy no one really noticed. Except when they did, it was never for good reasons. "Hey, loser." A sharp voice rang out from across the hallway. Ethan knew who it was without turning around. Jake Thompson, the school's self-proclaimed king, had made it his mission to torment Ethan since the first day of the semester. Ethan kept walking, his hoodie pulled over his head, hiding his face. He had learned that reacting only made things worse. He wasn't always invisible, though. Outside of school, Ethan was known by millions. Under the stage name Ace, he was one of the hottest young singers in the country. His songs topped charts, his face was plastered on billboards, and his voice captured the hearts of thousands. But at school he was just Ethan, the kid everyone picked on. Jake and his group approached him, blocking his path. "What's wrong? Too scared to talk?" Jake sneered. His friends chuckled behind him, enjoying the spectacle. Ethan clenched his fists but kept his head down. No one knew who he really was. He had made sure of it. Fame, as exciting as it was, came with its own set of challenges. He didn't want special treatment, and he certainly didn't want people like Jake trying to be his friend just because he was famous. So he kept his identity hidden, and that meant enduring the bullying silently. "Leave him alone, Jake," a voice said from behind the crowd. It was Mia, one of the few kind souls in the school. She wasn't exactly popular either, but she stood up for people when it counted. Jake scoffed but stepped back. "Whatever. Not worth my time," he muttered, leading his pack away. "Are you okay?" Mia asked, her eyes full of concern. Ethan nodded, grateful for her kindness. "Yeah, thanks. You shouldn't let them push you around, you know. You're better than that," she said with a soft smile before walking away. Ethan watched her leave, feeling the weight of her words. He was better than that, but how could he show it? No one knew what he was capable of. No one knew about the sold-out concerts, the screaming fans, the life he led outside these walls. The irony was painful. He was adored by millions, but couldn't even stand up for himself here. That evening, Ethan had a concert. He stood backstage, hearing the deafening roar of the crowd calling for Ace. His manager handed him a microphone and the stage lights dimmed. This was where he came alive. As he stepped into the spotlight, the music started, and the familiar rush filled him. He sang with everything he had, pouring his heart into every note. For that hour, he was untouchable. There was no Jake, no bullying, just him and the music. After the show, he scrolled through social media on his phone. Hundreds of fans had posted about the concert, praising him, telling him how much his music meant to them. It was a world where he felt loved, but it was also a world he kept at a distance from his daily life. The next day at school, nothing had changed. Jake was still the bully, Mia was still the kind friend, and Ethan was still invisible. But as he walked through the halls, something inside him felt different. He knew who he was even if no one else did. The day dragged on until it was time for the annual school talent show. Ethan wasn't planning on participating. After all, he didn't need the validation. But then, as he sat in the audience watching Jake and his friends butcher a rock song, something in him clicked. When the MC asked if anyone else wanted to perform, Ethan found himself standing up. Ethan, right?" the MC asked, surprised. Ethan nodded and walked onto the stage, his heart pounding. He didn't have his guitar or a band, but that didn't matter. He had his voice. For once, he wasn't going to hide. He took a deep breath, and as he sang the first note, the room went silent. The song was one of his own, a ballad that had been a huge hit, but no one at school had any idea. His voice soared, filling the auditorium with a raw, emotional energy that left everyone speechless. When he finished, the silence lingered for a moment before the room erupted into applause. Ethan looked up to see the astonished faces of his classmates, including Jake and Mia. As he stepped off the stage, people surrounded him, asking a million questions. "Was that really you? How did you hide this from us?" Even Jake looked dumbfounded, unsure of what to say. Mia approached, her eyes wide. "I had no idea," she said softly. Ethan smiled. "Most people don't." From that day forward, things were different. The bullying stopped. Jake kept his distance, no longer the king of the school. And while Ethan didn't seek the attention, he no longer had to hide who he was. He was still Ethan, the quiet kid, but now everyone knew there was more to him than met the eye. In the end, it wasn't the fame that mattered to Ethan. It was the fact that, for the first time, he didn't have to hide. He could be himself, both the quiet boy and the famous singer. And that was enough.